Office enter
Toby. It's been nice. Die Hard Office fans. Hope you find your paradise. We love The Office.
We do. Big
A little
fans.
too much. That was a great comparison.
How
there.
sad were you when The Office left Netflix?
Extremely sad. So much so that I asked for the DVD box set because it wasn't yet on Peacock.
It's Monica. Anytime she watches The Office, it's a DVDs going into the
I'm clapping.
player.
I'm clapping for physical media, by the way.
I was really sad for 5 minutes.
So it took
And
me
then I got
a
a
long
subscription
time.
that had it, and I got it again.
It took me a long time to get into The Office. So independently, I had
Wow.
tried like a while because one of my really, really, really good friends back home, that was like her favorite show, Ashlyn. You've met Ashlyn.
Yeah.
It's like one of her favorite shows. And we have been best friends for forever. So I'm just like, we will obviously like this show. And I was just like, this so fucking stupid.
Okay, so I have a question though. Did you start watching The Office like any random season?
No,
or is
I
it
started season 1.
That's why.
Okay, wait, okay.
That's
so
I
why.
like season 1.
That's
my
why.
brother, his favorite episode ever in all of this is Diversity Day.
Mine too.
Season 1, episode
yeah.
2. Brent
That's
loves
that's
that
a great episode.
So
A lot
I
of
watched
cultures
it.
eat
Should I say,
rice.
A lot of cultures eat rice. To my response is, rice is really great if you want 2,000 of something, which is a Mitch Hedberg line. So anyway, it took me a hot second to get into The Office. And then I meet my boyfriend, who is probably as big of a fan of The Office as this man right here.
It's true.
And he was like, no, you have to give it a shot. You just have to give it a shot. And so I was like,
finish.
okay, fine.
Start to
I'll do
finish.
it. So we start with season 1, and I'm like, okay, I'm actively giving it a shot. I really like this guy. I really should understand what the fuck this show is. And so I'm watching
It's
it.
a good woman right there, ladies and gentlemen. Take notes.
It's like he
Thank
likes
you.
The Office. I'm fucking dialing in.
I'm gonna try my best. And so we watched the first episode, and I'm just like, hey. And then Diversity Day was pretty good. It was actually very good.
She's all Pilot wasn't very good. That's the name of the first episode.
Didn't love Pilot. I didn't love Pilot. I did not love Pilot.
Most people don't.
And so then, we get through the first season, and I'm like, I was entertained enough to start the second season. And from there, I was sold. I just never could get past the first season.
Well, okay, so think about it like this. So if you compare Michael Scott in the first season to the second season, he's a completely different character.
Yes.
Hair and everything.
Yeah, they changed his hair, they
Yes.
changed his person. Because in the first season, he's a lot like Ricky Gervais from the British Office.
Absolutely.
Where he's like dirty, he's super
giving used car
crass.
salesman.
Exactly. But
No
in season
offense.
2, he's Americanized.
Right.
He's the lovable idiot.
Yeah.
He's the idiot that succeeds. And if you think about the comedies that were coming out at the time, that was like, so movies like 40, he was in it obviously, but 40-Year-Old Virgin, Knocked Up, Super Bad,
Excellent movie.
American Pie movies, the actual movie, not the spinoffs, but the actual American
Sure.
Pie movies. What was the movie with Vince Vaughn and Will Ferrell? Old School, right? It's
You're my boy, Blue. What?
Great quote.
It's a great movie.
Thank you.
But
Great quote.
it's
Thank you so much.
the lovable, it's the idiot that succeeds. It's the
Yeah.
lovable dumbass.
Yeah.
And so that's what they turned Michael Scott into. And obviously their camera techniques got a little bit better. They changed the color grading and it became more American because English humor is a lot more deadpan and dry,
Right.
stuff like that. And American humor is more in your face.
Right.
It's a sitcom, right? So they merged the sitcom with the mockumentary style,
Right.
and they created The Office. And the funny story about The Office too is, so a lot of people did not like the first season.
It was not good. I'm sorry.
And
It
so
was
as
not that great.
I thought it
as
was
they
fine.
were doing the second
not that good.
season, people were like,
average.
I don't want to get into it. So their numbers were dropping in the second season. And the only reason they got renewed for a third is because when the second season hit iTunes, it was at the top of the TV show list for months. People were just buying it, and then NBC was getting a shit ton of money out of it. So they were like, "Oh, what if we did season 3?" And then it was off to the races from there.
Yeah.
Could you imagine canceling that show after season 2? A crime.
Well,
It would have been a crime.
We would
would've
have been
been.
so deprived.
well, think about it. Fucking Steve Carell wouldn't have had the career he had.
Right.
John Krasinski wouldn't have had the career that he would have had. And Ray Wilson would have had a lame podcast. So it is what it is. It is what it is. I'm sorry. I don't want to see Dwight Schrute get spiritual. I'm sorry. It's not.
Have you ever seen him in the movie The Rocker?
Oh yeah, it's a great movie.
It was a
Wait,
great
The
movie.
Rocker. Have you seen The Rocker?
Yeah, it's like where
No,
he gets kicked.
I'm
No,
sorry.
he gets kicked out of his band. So he's in a band. He gets kicked out of the band. So he gets like these high school kids.
Oh, so
It's very School of Rock.
School of Rock, but worse.
It's very School of
No,
Rock.
because he was in a superhero movie. It was called Super. He was in that movie. That was really good. With a bunch of dumbass vigilantes. It's smoke a little bit of weed and have fun kind of movie.
Hey, we like that.
Yeah, exactly. But these guys wouldn't have had the career that they would have had. And we wouldn't have had fucking Steve Carell.
Unbelievable.
One of the greatest comedic actors of all time.
We just had a actor or a comedian who was out at Quesada's who was on The Office.
This episode of the podcast is brought to you by the amazing people over at Chop Chili. Guys, this is personally my favorite chili brand here in the state of New Mexico, and you can find them online at chopchilico.com. You can also find them all across the state of New Mexico at Sprouts, Albertsons, Smith's, and a bunch of other stores in Albuquerque, Santa Fe, Las Cruces. I believe they're even down in El Paso now. They sell red and green chili, of course. My personal favorite is this blend of red and green, and they also sell online frozen bags of green chili. So again, go to chopchilico.com to get yourself some amazing chili today. Now back to the podcast.
Mike, is it
Winfield?
Winfield, yeah. I was going to say Whitfield. I don't know why I was going to say that. Mike Winfield. He was in 2 episodes of The Office. He was in...
when the warehouse workers win the lottery.
You know how the warehouse...
And so they all quit.
Oh, yeah.
So they have to hire...
So he's in the episode The Lotto in season 8, and he's also in Doomsday. And so obviously the warehouse workers win the lottery. Daryl doesn't get in on the pot. And so they all quit and leave. And so he has to find all their replacements. So he's all depressed and he's like just super sad with his life. Mike Winfield. And so Mike Winfield is one of the guys who plays the warehouse workers who come in, who applies. And so Andy Bernard and
Gabe.
No, it's not Gabe.
Oh.
What's Daryl.
Oh, yeah. He was on America's Got Talent.
Correct.
Yes, he was.
So we had him on the show recently. We got to ask him. We got to say, Mike, you were on 2 episodes of The Office. What was it like being on literally one of arguably the greatest shows of all time? And he gave us the greatest answer ever. He said, first of all, it was surreal. I was sitting there. I walked in. I got the part. I walked in. I'm getting my makeup done next to Phyllis. He was like, I look over. He goes, I look over and I'm running lines with Stanley. He goes, we go down to the warehouse and I'm doing forklift training with Dwight. Like, he said it was unbelievable. He goes, to be a fan of the show, first and foremost, and then I'm in the office. He said, I was in the office. I'm walking around, I see Jim's desk, and I see reception, and I see Stanley, and I see Dwight's desk, and Angela's area, accounting, and he said it was...
It's like a real thing.
It was the coolest thing ever. As a diehard fan of the show, to get to talk to him about being on the show, it was awesome. It was a dream for us.
My favorite... comedian that was on that show as a guest role or like supporting / guest role was Patrice O'Neal.
Oh yes, he passed away.
He passed away more than a few years ago.
Warehouse.
He played one of the warehouse guys.
That's the guy that Mindy Kaling calls the whale.
Yeah,
she's
the sea monster.
You weigh like 1,000 pounds.
There we go.
Let's like take a ride in this sea monster.
Yeah, whale.
Yeah.
Well, what I really love about him is he has this quote, and he was like, "I don't care." No, he said, I don't want everyone in the audience to like me. I want like 75% of them to like me. But if there's a quarter of you that hate me, I'm doing my job right.
Yeah.
And I just think that's such a great way to look at stand-up. Yeah. Like, because there are comedians that everyone just loves and enjoys, and there's a 100% hit radius. But then there's comedians that don't have that, but still do extremely well, and they're not hitting that hit radius because they're talking about things people don't want to hear, but they do it well. It's like that's the guy.
Haters are your motivators.
Yeah. Thanks. Live, laugh, love. Yeah.
There we go. There's your quote for today.
But yeah, it's funny looking back at shows like that had a rough first season. Yeah. Like, cause that show was like that. Parks and Rec was like that. Community was like that. Yeah. 30 Rock. And I'm going to say something that nobody fucking agrees with me on, but when the reason why it took me so long to get into Breaking Bad is I thought the first season was a dud.
Hated the first season.
But then what's cool about
My wife thinks the same thing.
Is it was
a snooze.
Yeah, but you watch the entire show and you turn around and watch the first season again.
It's
you
amazing.
See all the seeds they're planting and you see the foreshadowing and it's like, oh, they're geniuses.
Yes, exactly. And that's exactly how I feel, because much like The Office, when I was moving out to Albuquerque, everyone's like, oh, you've obviously seen Breaking Bad. I was like, no. So I was like, oh, great, a show that I have to watch. And it took me 2 or 3 tries to get through this first season, and I was like, I feel bad for Walter White. This is sad. Like, he has cancer. He's a chemistry teacher. He is not appreciated at home. Like, his son, he's dealing with, like, his son. I never liked Skylar. Actress Anna Gunn, you're fantastic. Never liked your character.
I mean, that shows you how good she did.
But that's the thing, right? Like, never liked her. I was like, she's a bitch. And so I just didn't like the whole first season. And again, Ryan was like, this is the greatest show I've ever watched in my entire life. La 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 la. It's like, okay, I'll watch the show.
If that doesn't tell you anything about Monica, she's all, he was not appreciated at home. That's one of her complaints.
He was not.
No, I think that's
Walt Jr. loved his father.
He was not appreciated at home.
I'm sorry.
So, anyway,
one of the greatest scenes in that movie or that show is when they're all talking and he goes, you're a pussy. And it's like, oh, fuck. Yeah.
So anyway, that one took me a minute too. Finally got through season 1, and much like The Office, I've seen Breaking Bad multiple times through, and it is probably one of the greatest pieces of television I've ever seen. Yeah. I mean, from the acting to the way that it was shot to the sheer plot of the show itself, it is gold. And so I feel really bad saying that it took me so long to get into it, but I was not hooked on season 1. Yeah. And I didn't get the fandom. I was like, what are we watching?
Were y'all not blown away as the show starts off like right away and this dude's like in an RV in his underwear like freaking out? You guys
that's really
captivating. I can go down to central Wyoming and see that for free.
But the thing is like, that's really captivating for 3 minutes, and then it reverts to the Mr. Car Wash on Eubank and Manal. Like,
we call those people the Central Streetwalkers, right?
I just was like, okay, so you had me, and now you've lost me. Like, it was much like Longlegs. Wow. Opening scene, very captivating. Remainder of the movie,
Longlegs sucked. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Are we the same person?
Fucking what's up, dude?
Yeah.
What's up, dude?
Where are you?
I really enjoyed Longlegs. I watched it twice.
Okay, let me ask you something. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the podcast. If you like what you've seen here, please share it with as many people as possible. Follow us on YouTube, Spotify, Instagram, Facebook, Apple Podcasts. Like, share, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. It really does help out the podcast. And if you're feeling extra generous, feel free to subscribe to our Patreon, which I have coming soon.